he told you a bit about my background since I'm at a college today. I worked in the college publishing division of McGraw-Hill for many years. And I come to this work from a corporate background, which is quite different than the way other people have found their way into it. Just as an aside, the reason we got No Child Left Behind was because the major publishing companies all own testing divisions, and it was a moneymaker. So I'm just leaving that out there as a I am not a Colorado native. I moved to Colorado about 6 years ago when I retired. I'm a native of Chicago. I lived there all my life. My son and granddaughter and my daughter-in-law all lived in Colorado, and I followed them out there, which is, by the way, a very common story for a lot of people who are retirees. So when I got there, I'll tell you the whole story about, I got involved with this, but when we started seeing frack wells, I thought they were water tanks. So, let's see. Come on. I want to go to the next slide. How do I do that here on this? There, in the middle. This is what, I always like to use this because this is the picture people have of Colorado, which of course, it does look like that in the mountains in the wintertime. It's beautiful. Or, I took this picture about a mile from where I live, and I'll talk a little bit about that area. But this is a walking trail in Colorado. All the counties and cities have what they call open space, which is purchased land that the county and city have purchased with walking trails and hiking. And so this is one of the walking trails. You can see the Rockies in the background and the horses. One of my favorite pictures. This is my community of Lafayette, and this is one of our little lakes. Actually, a lake in Colorado is really a water reservoir. There's only one natural lake in the entire state. But there's walking trails around this, and of course you can see the mountains in the background. And then, this is what everybody thinks of Colorado. This was done by ballot initiative. This amended the state constitution by a ballot initiative. And it was kind of a citizen-driven one. We now have medical and retail marijuana. Just in case anybody wants to ask me about that as a city councilor, we have a few grow operations in our community. We have retail stores. We have more trouble with the bars than we do with this. The other thing that Colorado passed just about a year ago, also by citizen initiative, was death with dignity, which is basically assisted suicide. That was also pressed as a citizen initiative in Colorado. The other thing that was on the ballot about a year ago, Colorado had, again, another citizen initiative to amend the Constitution for single-payer health care. That one got slammed by the hospitals, insurance company, and pharmaceuticals. Totally slammed, millions of dollars put up against this. The woman who spearheaded this drive was a physician herself in Colorado. So that was kind of a surprise. We kind of hoped that that would go through. So what I'm framing this as is the picture of the politics in Colorado. You see marijuana, death with dignity. You see an attempt at single payer, very liberal, very progressive. That's the image that a lot of people have. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit as we talk about how the politics works underlying that. Because as I've gone through the state and talked to Tish, we call it the corporate state of Ohio, and we have a visitor from the corporate state of Colorado. So don't be fooled by these things. I don't know if you saw this in the paper recently. This happened in the spring. This house was about 8 or 9 miles from where I live. The owner of the home and his brother-in-law were installing a water heater, and the house blew up. The two of these, the homeowner and his brother-in-law, were both killed. The wife was found in the rubble by construction workers in the burning rubble. Her children, one was home and was uninjured, and the other one was not at home. This was a house that was built 150 feet, I believe, from a old well belonging to Anadarko from Texas. As soon as this happened on the news, they said, wow, these guys are putting in a water heater and they screwed up. Here's the story. This house was about 3 years old. They were installing their third water heater because the other two burned out in 3 years. The reason was there was a flow line coming from this old well that was supposed to be shut off, and they had shut the well down for maintenance. They turned the well back on, lit it back up. This flow line was still running. It was not capped off underground. The methane from the well was accumulating in the ground. It went into the house through their French drains. Of course, there's no smell. This is raw methane. And their house, their basement was so saturated with methane, this is what our fire chief told me, that their pilot light never went out on the water heater, so it was burning out the mechanism. And they were replacing the water heater. And this time, the whole house blew up. This is in a suburb of Denver. Our governor has come out and announced our next steps for how we're going to deal with this, but then there's another picture of the firefighters dealing with the house. For about a day, the way the news was talking about it, it was a couple of incompetents installing a water heater, and they blew their own house up. Yeah, that lasted about a day until everybody figured out what it was. This was about 2 or 3 weeks later. This is on a well pad, also owned by Anadarko. This was an explosion on the well pad, and one worker was killed, and several others were severely burned within 2 weeks of this. Also, about 10 miles from where I live. This is how the county that these houses are in, they're in Weld County, Colorado, this is their solution. They are giving away free gas detectors that detect explosive gas. That's what we get. Yeah, that's pretty hard to believe. This is the community just east of where I live in Lafayette. It's in a different county, in Weld County. I'm in Boulder County, Colorado. These are all new houses, and you can see the well pads. These are massive pads, by the way. They can have 20, 30 wells on one pad. And they're right behind these houses. This is, again, a shot of the same area. You see all those new houses? I think you can even see my traces of the golf course. And then right in the middle of it is the well pad. This is charming. This is somebody's child playing, and this is Erie, Colorado, right next door to Lafayette, and there's the little girl playing on the playground. Colorado had a severe flood in 2013, and when it rains in Colorado, especially in the mountains, it just gushes. It's really high desert. The ground is it's not porous. There's no place for the rain to go, and we had a massive flood in this whole area of Colorado north of Denver. And of course, you can see one of the older well pads in a neighborhood completely flooded, and the oil storage tank laying on its side with houses right behind it. This is a well pad just north of us. This is a new one. Just north of us in Longmont, Colorado, you can see the size of this. Look at the tanks underwater. There were a lot of spills. They kind of went downriver into Nebraska. The industry covered that up very quickly, by the way, the damage from that flood. More shots again. Look at the size of the house in the background. This is just to show you where I live, but if you see Denver and just slightly to the left, there's Boulder up there. I live right between just north and just east of Boulder. So Lafayette used to be an old mining town years ago, coal mining. There's coal mines there. And it was kind of an isolated little community. We have a cemetery from 1831 where there are basically 7 miners buried there who were killed in the Columbine mine strike. and they were shot, I believe, by Pinkertons. There's a memorial for them there. Joe Hill's ashes some of his ashes were spread on that. So there's a real history of labor movement and mining there. Where it is now, it's a suburb of Denver and Boulder. It's the population currently is 27,000. Our build out will be about 35,000. And that whole area where we are is all suburban. So we are really in the Denver metro area. We have, a lot of cute places that are tributes to the miners and that sort of thing, but it essentially is a suburb and a big metropolitan suburb of Denver. And that whole area going down from Denver, from Cheyenne, Wyoming, down into New Mexico is called the Front Range when you're east of the Rockies. And there is a huge shale formation along that area. The one we live on is called the Denver-Julesburg Basin. There's also some oil and gas on the western slope of the Rockies as well. This is a map of the oil wells in the area that I live in, oil and gas wells. They're all with dots. You can see down in the corner is where Lafayette is, and where the arrow is Firestone, that's where the house explosion was. This is the county line. This is Weld County, and this is Boulder County. If you're familiar with the University of Colorado in Boulder, that Boulder County is, you can see we've sort of held the line on this because people in Boulder County are like freaking. But all this activity is coming directly west into Boulder County in the eastern part of Boulder County where I live. This is another map of the oil wells in the neighborhood. You can see Denver down here, right in this corner. This is our governor, John Hickenlooper. I have a lot to say about him. He is a spokesperson fairly regularly for the Coloradans for Responsible Energy Development. That's a front group for the oil and gas industry. Very well funded. John Hickenlooper is a former oil and gas industry geologist. He was sort of picked by the party to run. He is a Democrat, so when I hear people say, well, the solution is we live in this Republican state and these people are insane and we've got to get rid of them and get more Democrats. I'm going to talk about this and how both parties are connected to this industry in Colorado. But this is one of his ads for the oil and gas industry. And it's very typical that he does this kind of stuff. This is one of the we have a great Facebook page. It's under East Boulder County United. If you ever want to look at it, we're just hammering. We've got memes, we've got all kinds of stuff out there. One of our members did this because he decided to join the U.S. Climate Alliance because he's an environmentalist. Last year, we had in 2016, because we have done several state-level ballot initiatives, very similar to what you have tried to do about local self-government, communities have a right to decide. It's getting so heated in Colorado that the industry came out swinging. And they said, we're gonna do something that we can sell to the public. And what they did was called Amendment 71. When you get a state ballot initiative on the ballot in Colorado, you get a certain percentage of signatures. In our case, it's a percentage of the people who voted for Secretary of State in the last election. If you're doing a ballot initiative in Colorado, where are you getting your signature from? From the Denver metro area, because everybody lives there. There's some hermits up in the mountains and some millionaires in Aspen, but they ain't signing anything like this. And then there's some ranchers out in the very lightly populated areas of eastern Colorado. So, of course, you go to the populated areas. Well, they thought, here's a clever way to address this. Everybody in the state should have a say on ballot initiatives. So what this ballot initiative said is if you are putting a ballot initiative forward as a citizen referendum in Colorado, you have to get a percentage of signatures from every Senate district in Colorado, state Senate district in Colorado. That means you have to go out in communities on the Eastern Plains where there's a population of 400 and they're very conservative, and nobody's going to sign it. One state Senate district, you don't get enough signatures, you're gone. They advertised this with like an $18 million budget on television. It was endless running of ads, and the way the ad was presented was, we all in Colorado need to decide on these ballot initiatives. It was presented that way to people with endless hammering ads on television. People passed it. This is, every living Colorado governor has endorsed Amendment 71. You see the man on the left? John Hickenlooper, our Democratic governor. You see the guy next to him, Ritter? Another Democrat. The guy in the middle, Bill Owens, he was a Republican. The other two, both Democrats. And they were out shilling for this amendment, funded by the oil and gas industry. So that's where we are. And I just want to, it's hard for people, oh, here's another guy that was out shilling for you. Anybody know who he is? Yeah, John Elway, the general manager of the Broncos. That's one of his TV ads. Yeah. He's talking about running for political office too. He's a Republican. Yeah. So they got him out yakking about this on TV with their $18 million worth of ads. And then we have this. This was on CBS News. I don't know about the guy on the right, but the guy on the left, no way, no how, keep him away from anything to do with this. He got to be gone. He is term limited, by the way. John Hickenlooper is term limited. So his next step, yeah, they both are. So there's talk about this. And the people who live in Colorado are going, are you kidding me? You know, this is like the oil and gas ticket here. So that's what we're facing. And then let me tell you a little bit about what we did in my community in Lafayette, because we were really the trailblazers in Colorado. My son and I both live there. He's been an activist all his life. He's a registered nurse. And when we first moved there, we saw these tanks, and we said, what the hell are these? You know, the water tank thing. There was a group of women in the community next to us who saw some pictures of their oil wells in the midst of all these residential neighborhoods. And they called themselves Erie Rising. They were all mothers of small children. And they said, this has got to stop. This has just got to stop. They organized, they fought in that community. There's a board of trustees rather than a city council. They fought with them. They fought with the state. They exhausted themselves to the point where all of them sold their houses and moved. Several of them left and went back to the East Coast. They said, I can't do it. And then when my son and I were dealing with this, we said, this is coming to our community. We're next. We do have 9 active wells in Lafayette. They're all old. But it is coming. We can see it. We're on the shale formation. They're not going to stop in Boulder County because all the progressives live in Boulder County. That's not going to happen. And so we started organizing. We went to our city council and we said, we want you to put a community bill of rights on the ballot. This was in 2013. And they said, all of them being very liberal people, are you kidding me? If we did something like that, well, those weirdos out in eastern Colorado would force everybody to carry guns. And they would pass sundowner laws. You know, we can't do that. That's dangerous. And there was a, kind of scrambling, and we thought, really? I mean, we thought you guys were like on our side. We said, well, we're going to put it on the ballot ourselves. We're going to get a citizen petition, and we did. We did a community bill of rights. We went out and stumped through the whole community. We went out and got signatures. We had a larger group of people that were helping us. We got enough signatures to get it on the ballot. And when you're dealing with these issues in a local community or municipality as we were, and it was going to be a charter amendment to our city charter, the city clerk and the city attorney actually review the language. And they review it in the sense that, can people answer this with a yes, no? That's the extent of this. While we were going through this, we had a protester. It's like communities here again. This guy shows up. It turns out he works for Halliburton. Oh. Surprisingly, he lives in Lafayette. He just moved there like a month ago. They walk in with the oil and gas attorney posing as his attorney to protest the language, and they find out that this idiot is not registered to vote in Boulder County. So they have to run him over to the county clerk's office and register him to vote, and then come back and file the protest. They lost. The city clerk and the city attorney said, no, the language is fine, it's going on the ballot. We got it on the ballot. It passed by the way, the city council, we thought were on our side, they passed a resolution telling people to vote no. Yes, yes. Because of the ramifications. The city could be sued, and we just can't have this, and this has unintended consequences. Eastern Colorado is going to be packing heat to everybody in every town because they're going to make them do it. So they did that. It passed with 62% of the vote. And some of the people who voted no were just scared to death that the city was going to be sued. So I agree with you, but oh my God, we're going to be sued. So it passed. I ran for city council at that time, and of course I was out getting petitions, I was out talking to people, and I won. And within 2 weeks after I won and was seated and this ballot initiative passed, the Colorado Oil and Gas Association filed their suit against the city and said this violates state law. Oil and gas is controlled by the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission. That's a state agency that funds for the industry, and they're called the COGCC. They have never failed to deny a permit, a drilling permit, ever. So the city got, all excited. They knew this was going to happen. We said in our local group, East Boulder County United, we said we want to file to be a party to the lawsuit because we want this suit discussion to be on the basis of rights and not on the half-assed basis of state preemption. We want to go with the rights angle, and that's what we passed it with. The city and the Colorado Oil and Gas Association joined forces and said, no, you cannot intervene in this suit. So we were not allowed to intervene. We were not allowed to bring that argument. The city made a very perfunctory defense on the basis of something I don't know. It's very difficult to find an attorney to represent you in Colorado because the oil and gas industry spreads their money out to all the law firms all over the state, especially in Denver, just like the defense contractors have little operations all over in all the states. And so finding an attorney to represent you is ridiculous. Our city attorney did not want to do it. We found somebody, perfunctory defense, we were overruled. It still shows up in our city charter with a footnote that said it was overruled by the court. At the same time that Lafayette did this, a number of other communities did as well. The city of Boulder, of course, banned drilling, except there's no drilling in the city of Boulder. They're right in the foothills of the mountains. So hey, congratulations, guys. And the city of Longmont, just north of us, 100,000 people. The year before, see, this is what communities do. They try to find a clever way. There's a magical thing that we can do, a clever way to get around the law to kind of make this work. So what Longmont did is they banned within city limits the technology of hydraulic fracturing. They did not ban vertical drilling. And they thought, well, this is the way. We found the trick. We found the loophole. And this is going to work for us. Their residents all passed it. Absolutely, hands down. Fort Collins, where Colorado State University is, they passed a moratorium. That's another way of saying, well, at least we won't be drilled for a couple of years, and we'll try to figure out what to do in the interim. They passed a moratorium. That passed by voter initiative. Broomfield, a huge suburban community just east of us, they did the same thing with a moratorium. Theirs passed. There were 5 communities that were doing this. And they all are in that same area just north of Denver. So the revolution was sort of on, people were getting it. And all of them were sued by the Colorado Oil and Gas Association. The city of Longmont, which tried that little trick with hydraulic fracturing, they were sued by the Colorado Oil and Gas Association. They were also sued by Governor Hickenlooper in the state of Colorado. Yes, he sued his own constituents. Okay. That case and the case against Fort Collins went to the Colorado Supreme Court. How do you think they ruled? Foregone conclusion. They said, no way, you can't do this. The courts overruled every step, and including up to the Colorado Supreme Court in these two instances. So now, here we are. It's the same thing. How many times are you going to do this? You can't stop. It burns people out, but you got to keep on going. In 2014, we said we're doing a state ballot initiative. We're going to go for it. This is before that little amendment passed last year. And we're going to do community rights, right to local self-government that would amend the state constitution, which our state constitution says all power is vested in people. So we organized, we got people out getting petitions. It's a slog. You need about 100,000. We're all volunteers. There are paid petition gatherers. We didn't have any. We didn't have $250,000. That's approximately what they charge for that. And we just couldn't do it by the deadline. You have to turn these in by the 1st of August. You get a maximum of, I think, 6 months or less. Can't go over that. And so we didn't do it. Our local U.S. representative, you may have heard his name because he's one of the richest congressmen, Jared Polis is his name. Very, uber liberal, great deal of money. He's a very wealthy man. And he was very active in the gay rights movement in Colorado. He was one of the players that, if you know the history of Colorado politics, that helped turn Colorado from red to blue. A lot of money thrown in there. There were 4 guys, they called them the Gang of 4, that threw tons of money into Colorado some years back and managed to flip it almost to a blue state. At this time, he decided, while we were doing our ballot initiative, that he was going to do one self-funded. He self-funded it because he could dump that money out of his couch cushions and come up with $250,000. He self-funded it, and he proposed 2 state ballot initiatives because, of course, his constituents in this area of Colorado were like ranting at him. And one had to do with setbacks, more setbacks from a well. That's typical when people want to nibble around the edges. Well, we'll give you another few hundred feet setback from a well. Right now it's 500 feet between a house and a well. And that was one of them. The other one was similar to that. Maybe it was, a different number of setbacks. He had these 2. Paid petitioners to go across the state. Of course, that drained what we were doing because everybody went, what the hell? I can give money.
In the car.
Yeah. You are totally wrong, Coloradans. So we're going to strengthen our regulations, which of course, how do you think local communities can regulate this? They can't. If you could do anything, you'd say no, because everybody living there going, are you crazy? There's a school on that spacing plan where they want to drill. They're going to look at this moratorium, and by the way, I'd also told them I would be traveling this week and I would be missing one of the meetings, so of course it showed up on the agenda of the meeting. I'm not there because that's how we roll. And they're going to look at their regulations. Just Boulder County, of course. In Boulder County and Lafayette, I mentioned the term open space. It's very different than the Midwest where I'm from. These communities buy all kinds of property that they then, it's not a park, it's called open space. There's beautiful trails. I had a picture of one of them. Beautiful trails, views of the mountains. You can, walk your dog. Some of them you can ride a horse. This is a huge feature of Boulder County. Boulder County itself has spent multi-million dollars on this. We tax ourselves for this. We have a special sales tax that we all agreed to, because in Colorado you can't increase taxes without a vote of the public. We all agreed to the special sales tax just to fund open space. And we have a special sales tax in the county of Boulder, and we have a special sales tax in Lafayette that funds open space purchases. It's a phenomenal amenity for the city. Boulder County, of course, is much wealthier than our little city. We are in Boulder County, and so they have massive amounts of open space that are just stunning and beautiful. North of us, between Lafayette and Longmont, there's a massive Boulder County open space and trails. And another driller called Crestone Peak Resources, again, a local Colorado company, but the actual owner of that company is the Canadian Pension Investment Board. That's the company that invests the Canadian, so all the Canadians who want to get their pension payments. So they not only can drill the piss out of Colorado, but they have national health care. That company filed a comprehensive drilling plan for all this Boulder County, 12 square miles encompassing hundreds of acres of Boulder County open space. Not only did they do that, but a week ago, Crestone Peak Resources said we are going to put the pads themselves on 4 open space properties. And they listed the 4. One of the properties is called the Wheeler Ranch. The Wheeler Ranch was purchased by Boulder County for open space just last year, a year ago in June, for $8 million of taxpayer money. And that's what they tell them. So we have sort of a rebellion going on, and it's getting very heated. By the way, when I speak at City Council, I have oil and gas people in the audience filming me. They've been there multiple times. We've had infiltrators in our meetings. That's how bad it is. Infiltrators come to your meetings. We've done some direct action training because basically we're at the point now where what else is there to do? You have no access to the ballot initiative process in the state. Your local community can do nothing, and it's basically just suck it up. This is what they say, our hands are tied. There's nothing we can do. It's a state issue. You need to go to the state legislature. And yeah, so this is, the oil and gas industry owns the state. It owns both political parties, both of them. So it may be different here, but that's how it works in Colorado. They're both doing it. So now we're in a fight with their own city council. And I got called by the ABC affiliate in Denver this morning. I got called by the local PBS radio station. So they're calling me, and I said, you're talking to the radical, man. I don't know where this will go. Last week, they're in this community next to us called Erie, the one that started it, Erie Rising. They've been very quiet for 4 or 5 years. There's nothing happened. All these big houses are being built. There's drills going in. They're all posting on Facebook because really you can write, stuff and say, I'm being poisoned, and here's my kid with a nosebleed, and click, and that's the level of the activism. I've done my part. Whoa, I posted on Facebook. All of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, the people in Erie called us, our group in Lafayette, and said, we need you to come over here and help. We're going to do a direct action in Erie. And we said, holy cow, where'd this come from? Well, Anadarko, let me connect the dots. Anadarko is the company that owned the well where the house exploded and the worker was killed. Anadarko is going to be drilling in Erie, along with Erie has, by the way, Crestone Peak. They've got Extraction and Anadarko. They got the trifecta of drillers there in the suburban neighborhood. Anadarko said they're going to have a community meeting, because they always do the community meetings, and they were going to show what their plan was for drilling in these neighborhoods, and it was going to be at the Erie Community Center. And so I went over there along with some other people. It was all people from Erie, and they were moms and dads. And so you could see all the engineers are kind of lining around the outer part, and they've got their charts to show you how, the technology is like fabulous. And but they're nervous. They're all kind of young guys from the School of Mines, and they're like, whoa, there's a lot of people here, and it's looking kind of suspicious. They had a full spread of food for everybody to, describe how they're going to poison them. And so in the middle of all this, somebody hollered, mic check, and a banner unfurled that said, remember Firestone. That's where the house exploded. And the chant started about how they are killing people. They killed 3 people just last spring. Get out. Get out. Another group came down the hallway. They shut down the community center. They're shutting it down. The police came. They escorted all the Anadarko people. I wish there were about 30 of them there, engineers. And then they have their young, attractive women that they always bring to do the community outreach. When they talk to a community in front of city council, it's always the 3 or 2 young women. They escorted them out the back of the building. And it was, we were all kind of shocked because this community has been so quiet for so long. And all of a sudden they've had enough. The tipping point was reached. I honestly don't know where this will go. I'm running for re-election right now. We have 4 open seats and we have 14 people running. 14. We did a candidate forum a couple of weeks ago and the guy next to me said, it looks like a clown car. I don't see that any of them are industry funded, although in our neighboring communities, most of the candidates are funded by oil and gas. I don't see that. I think people just want to get involved. But these people who are running are so incredibly clueless about what is happening. They have never been involved. I have never seen them at a meeting. In fact, some of them, they've never come to a city council meeting to even complain about the lights on the basketball court. But they've decided to run. They have no clue what they're dealing with. And then there's a group of people that are very connected to our mayor. They are kind of called her minions. And she has been grooming them to run because they want to get me off that council. I'm just driving them nuts. And they want to quiet it down. Because, we have to give lip service to this, but we don't want anybody to actually attack the industry and try to stop it because our hands are tied and there's nothing we can do. And renewables. We're going to be, let's tell the candidates, say, we're going to be 100% renewable by 2040 or 2050. So how does that help us? We got, there's not enough low-flow toilets in Lafayette to stop this onslaught. So we hear renewables, our hands are tied. Oh, we're going to elect a better governor. This is what I've heard. As soon as Hickenlooper's gone, because he's a jerk, he's going to be out of there next year, that oil and gas shield, we're going to elect a better governor. Who do you think the better governor is going to be? Jared Polis. He's running. Jared Polis, who sold everybody down the river in 2014, sold us all out, all our threatened communities, the oil and gas industry. And by the way, in the course of his campaign, because he's starting his whole campaign, this whole episode has been disappeared. Nothing is said about it. There's nothing on his social media, nothing. It's like it never happened. And of course, there's a lot of newcomers in Colorado that don't know that happened. So he's going to save us. We need to elect better people to our state legislature because that'll help. And by that they mean more Democrats. You go, well, geez, if we get more like this, we're in real trouble. The renewable thing, oh yeah, there's a whole talking points that because the parties, neither party can take on that industry frontally. They are both owned by that industry. So you can nibble around the edges, you can talk about renewables, you can do all this cool stuff, but you can't take them on head on, and you can't say to them, absolutely not. So now I'm telling the counselors that they're doing, I said, what happened to the Climate Bill of Rights? You passed a ban. Are you telling, you need to come out in front of the citizens in Lafayette and say, never mind, that was a symbolic gesture. We take it back. You have to tell people that. Because now when you're talking about a moratorium and regulations, you're totally doing a reversal. You're undercutting any legal benefit that we would have by the Climate Bill of Rights. Of course they aren't saying that to anybody. Even when they're confronted directly and say, you're going back on this. Was that a symbolic gesture that you passed? What is this? Well, you get all the double talk. So that's a fight we're against, and it's going to get pretty tough out there. The industry is very powerful. They're threatening, by the way. They love to expose people. One of the women running in our neighborhood community is very progressive and wants to deal with fracking there. They're being fracked. She said, this is going to come out. They're going to do a mailer all over my ward or precinct, whatever you call it, because she had a DUI 10 years ago. They actually do that kind of stuff. They will go in your background. They will do criminal background checks. They will expose that online. They will do mailers. They're dirty. And that state is corrupt. Regardless of the image that you see and hear about, we're green. They are corrupt. There is collusion. I said that in a city council meeting one time. I have never seen such corruption and collusion, and I'm from Chicago. Everybody They laughed, but they all stood up and cheered. So, you know, there's the fight we're having. It's the same. It's the same thing. It goes on all over. But, you know, I agree with what Tish said. You just got to keep moving forward. Defeat, keep going. Defeat, keep going. Our version now, what I'm seeing happening in my local community and in Boulder County is that they are so scared. They are so on the run that if I even go to a meeting, as I did the other day for Boulder County Affordable Housing, they're all running. They're trying to get away from me. They think I'm going to attack them in the meeting. They're on the run, these public officials who has served as, I would say, almost collaborators with the industry, and now they're scared. Because now the citizens are saying, this is enough. We're sick of this. So I don't know how it'll play out. I don't know how far we'll go with it. We have said we're going to start doing direct actions. We've had direct action training there. And you're going to have to bring out the Boulder County Sheriff and the Lafayette Police to arrest all the mom and dads that live here. There's where we are.